I'm Tobias Nagely, Editor-in-Chief at Air Force Magazine, and I'm with Leanne Caret at Boeing's spectacular headquarters here just near the Pentagon, and we're going to talk a little bit about Air Force priorities and your programs.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Tell us a little bit about where we are with T-7A and the KC-46.
So I'll start with KC-46 because it's always top of mind for everyone. Most recently, folks have heard me say, I want to deliver the perfect tanker. And it is simple as that. My expectation and my team's expectation is that the Air Force customer deserves nothing less. But a perfect tanker isn't in the eyes of the Boeing company. A perfect tanker is in the eyes of the Air Force. We have a clear roadmap. I am so grateful and quite frankly blessed that we have an amazing partnership with the U.S. Air Force. We have a roadmap to success. Last week we hosted the Honorable Bob Beeler and General Van Ovost, the new commander of Air Mobility Command in Seattle, to take a look at the remote visual system as well as the overall performance of the KC-46. And the tanker that they are getting as we finish up the remote visual system is going to be something that surpasses all expectations and imaginations of what was originally contracted for back in 2011. So I'm just thrilled and really thankful for the steadfastness of the two teams. They have set a new foundation that we're working from. The lessons learned from tanker, we tied directly to T7. I never wanted to experience, and our teams never wanted to experience, another situation where we were disappointing so many. And so with T7, we started focusing years ago not on the capability or the system, but rather on the how. And what we realized, if we could build the most digitally advanced and the most easily produced aircraft and system, we could actually create a way for the customer, in this case the USAF, to continue to evolve and innovate themselves, have an open system architecture where whether it's their own software or third parties come on board, and they could continue to stay in front of all the adversaries that we're fighting in the years to come. And the T7 does just that. An example of how fabulous this has been is how long it takes to mate the forward and aft fuselage. On an FA-18, historically, 24 clock hours. On a T7, less than 15 minutes. They've even let me do it once, just so you know. And so I'm just really excited that we took a look at innovation through a different lens, and instead of pinpointing a certain capability, we started focusing on the how, but we never lost why we're doing it and who we're doing it for.
The Air Force just completed a major ABMS experiment. You're interested in that business, obviously, and that's kind of a route to Joint All-Domain Command and Control. Tell us what your vision for that is and how you think Boeing can play.
Well, Tobias, you know as well as I do, simply put, ABMS is about the collection of information and the dissemination of information across multiple spectrums. And while the Air Force is a big player, they've got to work in conjunction with the other services and align with the National Defense Strategy. I'm really thrilled that Boeing has solid offerings from seabed to space. But what I'm even more thrilled about is that we have been thinking about the art of connectivity and how we are ensuring that our customers have the ability to connect in a way that was more than pictures with lightning bolts, as you recall from a decade or two ago. And so I shared earlier that one of our visions is to not only provide something that is operationally relevant to the warfighter, but making certain that we use that digital engineering thread throughout that entire value system, from concept all the way through its life, including sustainment. With ABMS, we have been focusing on that art of connectivity. And it's not about Boeing products connecting to one another. It's about all products connecting to one another. And it's about the ability for manned-unmanned teaming to occur so that we can continue to stay in advance of the adversary. I am all for creating an unfair fight. And anything that we can do to demonstrate that is really important. Dr. Roper shared the ET7 is a prime example of that. I'll add that he's very pleased with what he's seen on F-15EX, and then we just recently had a demo ourselves in the last ABMS round. So I anticipate you're going to see Boeing more and more having conversations from seabed to space in this effort.
So you just said F-15EX, and that was the next thing I wanted to ask you about. You changed kind of the way you've manufactured that airplane. You've modernized that approach as well. What have you done differently?
The key for us was we were struggling with, I'll be honest, pinpointing the exact technology that was going to be made 20 or 30 years from now. When I reflect back in my lifetime and your lifetime, think about our phones that have more processing capability than the processor on the Apollo 11. None of us would ever have anticipated that happening. And so sometimes we get hung up on the it versus the how. What I want to make certain is we have a digital backbone, that we have an open system architecture, that we can ensure our customers can get the benefit of whatever's the latest and greatest technology and apply it real time. And that's what we did with the F-15EX. We took what we did on the T-7 and quite frankly the MQ-25, and we said we wanted to create a digital aircraft. And on the T-7, we built hundreds of T-7s before we cut the first piece of metal. We flew thousands of hours before we conducted the first test flight because we did it all through a digital thread and we did it all through modeling and simulation. We've now applied that to the F-15EX. So we took that, we combined it with the investments our international partners made, and then what we've ended up with was an aircraft which has the fastest mission computer in the world and has the ability to carry some pretty outsized weapons.
And you changed the way that you're actually manufacturing the weapon itself. You've redesigned some of those components.
Absolutely. So this goes back to making certain that we aren't shimming and we're not drilling, that we are literally designing it in a way that not only can we eliminate fabrication time, for instance, 70% of the labor required on the nose cone itself, but that when you're out in the field and the maintainers are needing to work on it, they have easy access, that it is done in such a way that it requires less tooling, less stands, less of that equipment that makes it so expensive at the tail end.
Boeing developed the air power teaming system as a solution for Australia, but you're offering that now as a potential answer to the Air Force's Skyborg program. Can you explain what it is and how that answers the requirement?
Tobias, I'm really excited about the opportunity to share a little bit about ATS, and that's the air power teaming system, as you suggested. In partnership with the Australian government, we actually have developed an autonomous aircraft. It is totally digitally enabled, and similar to what we've done on T-7, we used all of those same tool sets so that it would be advanced, have that single digital thread, but then it's also modular, so like the nose can change out. So it's just perfect in terms of experimentation for the Air Force. I'm really excited about this because it provides a low-cost option when you do manned-unmanned teaming. And as you know, we want to make certain that we have a way for our Air Force to be able to keep those high-cost fighters, bombers, whatever, protected, also have them focus on doing their job. And if we have other opportunities to use some in a manned-unmanned teaming situation, it will really benefit the total force.
And that plays into JETC2 again, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's a direct link, so it goes back to the sharing of information and connectivity between all the spectrums, seabed to space. ATS, or whatever it's called in the future, will be a key player in that, and it's really pretty exciting.
So the MH-139.
Yes.
You said something about having been up in Philadelphia, so you must know something about helicopters. Tell us a little bit about where that program is.
The MH, well, first off, thanks for the shout out to Philly. I actually ran our rotorcraft business, and Philly was my home for almost 6 years, so it is, very close and personal to me. The MH-139, we were kind of a stalking horse on the side. I don't think anybody really paid much heed to us because we took our strategy that we use on a KC-46 or a P-8 or even a Air Force One, for instance, and took a commercial off-the-shelf product and said, let's go militarize it. It started again with listening to the customers, talked about leveraging the benefits of having a commercial market space, and then we brought in our digital tool sets again so that we could militarize it. I'm really excited about working with Global Strike and General Ray and his entire team, and we're now in the process of getting FAA certification on it.
Let's talk about the Space Force. We've talked about airplanes, but you're also a space company. What's your take on the Space Force, and how is that changing your business, maybe the way that you approach the Department of the Air Force?
So a little bit about me, which I think always helps in this context. So my mom and dad actually met on the Saturn V program in Michoud, right outside New Orleans, Louisiana. I was born at Kennedy Space Center. I saw the Apollo launches myself. I have not only Boeing blood running through me, but I'm a space baby. There make no bones about it. I've always been a key advocate of the Space Force, and the reason is what we saw in terms of what was occurring in space, on the air layer, is clearly occurring in space, and they needed the doctrine and the policy to allow it to go happen. And that has been so refreshing, and I really give a huge shout out to Secretary Baird and now General Raymond and General Brown as General Goldfein retires for taking that leap forward and really institutionalizing this. One of the first launches for Space Force was the X-37B. And as a reminder, or maybe you don't know, this is one of just my greatest delights. Our 37B Air Force Boeing team just received the Collier Trophy. It is a great example of when you focus on that domain and you leverage those unique capabilities, that is all about perfect. You don't get a chance to land the aircraft and go tweak it and send it back up. When you go up, you are going up. And so it really brings into full play all of the innovation and the technology from a how perspective. But you have to have that resilience and that focus on making sure that it can do its mission for the long time. And you're designing to an entirely different set of parameters. And so it's absolutely thrilling to watch it evolve, and we're very excited to be part of the team on that.
So one last question. Kind of hearing this theme about doing things faster. General Brown has talked quite a bit since taking over as Chief of Staff to accelerate change. What does that mean to you? And is that something that you're doing, or is that something that you can take and run with and apply in your own way?
It goes, Tobias, it goes back to the conversation about, can you actually pinpoint a technology 20 or 30 years from now that's going to deliver what it needs to be done? I bet you may get trends right, but you're not going to get the exact technology right. And so it is all about speed, and it's all about agility. So what our vision is, and the strategy we've taken and invested the last several years on, is about making certain that we can make it as digitally advanced as humanly possible and build it as fast as we can. And that applies straight into these strategies, which is, if you're going to keep up with the competition, if you're going to stay in front of the adversaries, change has to be your friend, and you have to do it in a controlled way. And so that's really where our investments have been made, and I've liked how it's played out so far.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you so much for having us.